Welcome to my channel. Take a seat and listen to my story. It will be interesting. I remember the day I first met Kelly. It was just a regular weekend. I was working as a mechanic at a garage near our college when she walked in, asking if I could check her car. She said it was smoking a bit. She stood at the entrance in a simple summer dress, but there was something about her eyes that immediately caught my attention. It was like a spark, and I knew right then that I wanted to get to know her better. We started dating not long after that, and our relationship progressed quickly, but I had no regrets. Within 6 months, I proposed to her, and she said yes. It felt perfect. We seemed made for each other. Kelly had a great sense of humor and could always lift my spirits, even when things weren't going well. We weren't rich, but we were building our life together, step by step. The first few years felt like a dream. We traveled, visited friends, and spent cozy evenings at home, just enjoying each other's company. Kelly was always social and had lots of girlfriends, which I was fine with. We had trust, or at least I thought we did. We understood each other and knew how to listen, which was important to me. But over time, things started to change. About a year ago, Kelly changed jobs. She started working at a big company, and although it was a big step forward for her career, I began to notice her growing distant. At first, I ignored the small things: late meetings, frequent weekend outings with her girlfriends, and a new wardrobe. But as the months passed, she spent more and more time away from home. Our once cozy nights were replaced by girls' nights out. Each time she returned, she seemed more emotionally distant. When I asked why she was going out so much, she would just smile and say she needed to unwind after work. I tried to ignore these changes, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. The long hours at work and the stress of daily life only added to the distance between us. She seemed more and more disconnected, and it began to seriously worry me. One evening, when she left again for another night out, I stayed home, thinking about what was happening. I sat on the couch, scrolling through old photos on my phone, pictures of us when we were happy together. It made me remember what we used to be, carefree and in love. But now, that felt like a distant memory. Lately, her phone was always by her side. She had even started locking it, something she'd never done before. I knew that was a red flag, but I didn't want to face the truth. One night, when she went to the bathroom, I noticed her phone vibrate on the table. It seemed odd to me that she was getting messages so late at night. That was the moment when my first real suspicion hit me. I started asking myself, is there someone else? We continued living together, but our relationship grew colder. Every time she went out, I was left feeling uneasy. I couldn't just sit and wait, hoping that everything was fine. That Friday night, when the clock struck 9, I decided I couldn't stay silent any longer. I went upstairs, and there she was, my wife, getting ready for another night out with her friends. A short red dress lay on the bed, and she was already wearing lingerie that left little to the imagination. I stood there looking at her, feeling frustration building inside me. I didn't remember seeing that set of lingerie before. I nodded toward the lingerie and said, "Is this what you wear for me?" Kelly hesitated for a moment before replying, "Yeah, I just bought it." I paused, then walked over to the laundry basket and pulled out her usual simple underwear, the kind she usually wore at home. "This is what you wear for me," I said, holding up the plain set. "But that," I pointed to the dress on the bed, "is for the club, for someone else." Her eyes narrowed and she turned away, clearly annoyed. "It's just a night with the girls, Jason. You're overreacting." I tried to stay calm. "Do you think I'm a fool? You're telling me you don't dance with other guys? That no one gets too close?" Kelly turned sharply toward me, anger flashing in her eyes. "How can you even say that?" she snapped. "Because I know how these things go," I shot back. "Your friends are all single or divorced, and they're out there looking for guys. You really think they aren't pulling you into it?" The conversation had turned into a serious argument. Kelly crossed her arms over her chest. "So what now? You want me to stay home?" "No," I said calmly. I'm saying going out looking like that when you're married is not right. You should know better. Jason, don't you trust me? She challenged me. I want to trust you, I replied, feeling my patience slipping. But it's hard when every weekend you dress up like this and go out with people I don't know or trust. I watched as she glanced nervously at the clock. I promised the girls I'd meet them by 10. You're making me late. I sighed deeply, trying to keep my anger in check. You promised me respect when we got married. But right now, it feels like your friends are more important than our marriage. Kelly nervously turned away, but I couldn't stop. I'm telling you, if you walk out that door tonight, I'm done. I'm not going to sit here waiting for you to come back anymore. I thought she might stay. Maybe she would finally see how serious this was. But instead, she grabbed her jacket and said sharply, "We'll talk about this tomorrow." I stood there in the silence of our house, realizing that everything between us had just broken. Kelly had made her choice, and so had I. I went downstairs, opened my laptop, and pulled up the divorce papers I'd been thinking about for a while. It felt surreal, but also inevitable. I read them over one last time, making sure I was ready. With a deep breath, I pressed send. There was no going back now. Afterward, I began packing my things. I couldn't be here when she came home and saw the papers. This was her game, but I was no longer playing. I called a taxi. Time moved slowly. I sat on the front steps, smoking a cigarette, waiting for the taxi. It was cold, and my breath formed little clouds in the air, but I didn't feel the cold. Everything inside me had been frozen for a long time. I wanted to feel something, but there was nothing left except emptiness. My mind was racing. Maybe I acted too quickly. That thought crossed my mind, but I quickly pushed it away. No, this wasn't rash. I had given her chances, so many chances. I tried to be a good husband, tried to understand why she had changed, why her friends mattered more than me. But the truth was, she had chosen a different life, one where I no longer belonged. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Kelly's sister. "What did you do?" She already knew. I didn't respond. I wasn't part of that world anymore. The taxi arrived late. The driver glanced at me through the rearview mirror but said nothing, and that was fine by me. I didn't want to talk. I just wanted to leave. As the car pulled away, I looked back at the house we shared. It felt like a prison, and I was finally leaving. Where to? The driver eventually asked after several minutes of silence. To a hotel, I replied, not offering any specifics. I had already booked a room for a week. After that, I would figure things out one step at a time. There was something oddly relieving about this trip. Even though the pain of her betrayal still burned inside me, I started to feel like this was a right move. For the first time in a long while, I had made a choice for myself, not trying to save something that had long been broken. Meanwhile, Kelly was sitting in the club, feeling relaxed, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit her. When her phone buzzed, she thought it was me texting, maybe to apologize or smooth things over. But when she saw the message from her sister, her face turned pale. "Are you out of your mind?" Her sister wrote. "Jason just said he's filing for divorce." Kelly felt like the ground had dropped out from under her. She reread the message several times, trying to process what it meant. How could this happen? She never imagined I would take such a step. She quickly stood up and rushed out of the club, leaving her friends confused. Her mind was racing. What happened? How is this possible? She tried calling me, but my phone was off. When Kelly got home, all that greeted her was silence. The house was dark and empty without me. She looked around and realized that my things were gone. Then, she saw the divorce papers on the table, neatly placed for her to see. Her heart sank as she picked them up and began reading. She walked from room to room, trying to understand how this had all happened. Then her eyes landed on our wedding photo, hanging above the fireplace. But now, scrawled across the glass in bold letters, was the word liar. That word cut her deeper than any words I could have spoken. She stood there for a long time, staring at the photo, realizing that everything she thought was safe and familiar had been shattered. She had wanted freedom, but now she had nothing. A few weeks passed since that night. I had moved into a small hotel room, where I had some time to be alone with my thoughts and figure out what to do next. The first few days were tough. I kept thinking about what could have happened if we had tried to fix things. But as more time passed, I became more certain of my decision. Kelly was no longer part of my life, and that was a relief. I decided to completely change my life. I got a job offer in another city, and I took it without hesitation. Moving was a fresh start for me. Life without her felt strange at first, but slowly, I began to realize that I could breathe again. A few months later, when I had settled into my new life, I unexpectedly got a call from Kelly. She hadn't contacted me since the divorce. I answered the phone, not knowing what to expect. "Jason, I'm sorry for everything." Her voice was quiet, uncertain. She was no longer the confident woman I remembered. "What do you want, Kelly?" I asked calmly. "I just wanted to say I miss us." "I made a mistake," she replied. Those words came too late. I was already moving forward. "Kelly, our past is behind us. You made your choice, and I made mine," I said, my voice steady. She paused for a few seconds, as if searching for the right words. But I had already hung up. For me, that chapter was closed. My new life in another city was starting to take off. I found a new job, made new friends, and started a new relationship. Over time, I realized that all of this had been part of my journey, leading me to the person I had become. I no longer needed to look back. Kelly was in the past, and though it had been painful, I had learned to make decisions and move forward. My new life, free of lies and betrayal, had become everything I had always dreamed of.